I think this is why it's so important to link the prison industrial complex to global capitalism. That was the intent from the beginning, but we don't always do the work we need to do in order to promote popular awareness of the extent to which capitalism is really responsible for this predicament we find ourselves in today. And organizations on the left have not always taken into consideration how important it is to understand the relationship between capitalism and these apparatuses of repression, assuming that, we have to focus our attention on the economic system, and once we dismantle the economic system, then all will be well. Racism will have disappeared. And we know that that doesn't work. And this is why I think the left is in such disarray today. And in a sense, that may be a good thing. Because in the past, there has been the tendency to assume that party formations, left parties, have the answer to how to engage in revolutionary struggle. And then everything else is epiphenomenal. And I think that what we have demonstrated is that one can be involved very deeply in an issue such as prisons. But the analysis of the prison industrial complex precisely is an analysis of capitalism. And we begin to recognize that we can move from one particular aspect to the whole system. I think that movement from the particular to the general is really important. I mean, feminism makes that kind of argument. If you're only talking about women, you're really not talking about humanity. And of course, feminism makes the argument that in addressing issues that have to do with gender, that have to do with gendered structures, then we begin to recognize what it means to transform the whole. The same thing with Black Lives Matter. There are those who just automatically argued, well, we can't talk about one small group of people, Black lives. We have to talk about all lives. But we know that if Black lives ever really mattered, then all lives would matter. So that movement from the particular to the universal, I think, is something that the left has to really recognize. And when I said before that it may be a good thing that the left is in disarray now, I meant that we are in the process of developing new ways of moving toward revolution, ways that don't necessarily recreate the very hierarchies that the revolution is supposed to dismantle. I think about South Africa and how what a beacon of light South Africa was, and how South Africa was supposed to be the evidence that it was possible to make revolutionary change. And of course it was important that the apartheid movement was dismantled. But there's the issue of the police and the prisons continue to plague South Africa. And I think, what if we had had that kind of analysis beforehand? What would South Africa look like today? And so it's a process. I think it's a process. But I absolutely agree that we have to think very explicitly about making the connection between the work that we do on the ground and the eventual radical revolutionary transformation of our worlds.